Well, good evening, everybody. Again, it's good to be out here. I'm in the 16th chapter of the book of John, and Jesus had been talking to the disciples, and we find that in chapter 17 is when Jesus does his praying for the disciples and for people in general, even though Jesus was only talking to the disciples at the time of the prayer, but I believe Jesus was also praying for us. He was praying for you and I. Well, before we get to chapter 17, see, 17 gets to where the whole chapter is the prayer, and then in chapter 18 is when they come and they take Jesus. So things are sort of winding up right here. If you look with me at verse 29, if you want to go back and read John 16 and go back a little while and read, you can. But I'm going to pick up at verse 29. It says this: His disciples said unto him, Lo, now speakest thou plainly, and speakest no proverb. I think that they're actually insinuating, look, Jesus, get to the point. Get to the point. Now, I'm not saying that to belittle the Christ. I'm saying that the reason that they're saying here, speakest thou plainly, and speakest no proverb, I think he's given Jesus to permission to say whatever Jesus wants to say. And no doubt he does answer a little bit. If you look at verse 30, now we are sure that thou knowest all things. Well, you would think after all this time in chapter 16 all the way back to John 1 that Jesus had been speaking about his life all the way through the chapter. And now they're actually saying, we are sure that thou knowest all things, and needest not that any man should ask thee. By this we believe that thou camest forth from God. Now they finally are admitting this to Jesus. But Jesus wants to confirm. You know, I bought a product online and they never sent me an email confirming the sale. Now, I know that they ended up billing me for it, but I haven't received the product yet. But I'm going to hold them accountable for the email that I have not got yet. Now, what it says here in this verse, that we believe that thou camest forth from God. Well, you know what? It's about time. It's about time that they believe, because things are winding down. These next verses right here, if you look in chapter 17, there's no more comment from the disciples to Jesus until chapter 18, and that's when they come and get him. That's when Jesus goes with the soldiers. So these next three verses that we're going to read is the only verses that Jesus says to them. Jesus answered them. Now you got to keep in mind, they just said, speak thou plainly and speakest no proverb. So Jesus is aware of speak clearly, and don't tell us a story, but tell us what you want us to know. And here's the question that Jesus asked them. Do you now believe? Well, they just admitted up there in verse 30, and this we believe that thou camest forth from God. But why did Jesus repeat the question to them in verse 31? Do ye now believe? I think what he's actually insinuating, do you believe now that I'm the Christ? Do you believe now, after all this time, that I am the Son of God? Do you believe that I am the one that came and was going to the cross? And see, I don't think these disciples actually knew that Jesus was actually going to be nailed to a wooden cross and die on a wooden cross. I don't really know that the disciples really understood the depth of the cross, because it hadn't happened yet. But see, Jesus is fixing to pray to them. But let's look at verse 32. Jesus says this to the disciples now, behold. See, they wanted him to be direct. Don't speak no proverb. Tell us the way it is. Speak plainly to us. And now he begins, behold. See, that word behold is getting their attention. It means they are to shut up and listen. And sometimes I think man don't want to shut up and listen. They got all the answers. But Jesus said, behold, the hour cometh. Yes. Yeah, the hour cometh, all right. Listen to this. Is now come, but they don't understand it fully. But Jesus is saying here, the hour cometh, yea, is now come, that ye shall be scattered. Now, that there, no doubt, would make anybody wonder, like, Lord, what do you mean scattered? We've been with you all this time. What do you mean by being scattered? Well, you notice they didn't interrupt and question that. Jesus was told to be frank and to don't speak no proverb. And now he says here, the hour is come and is now come, that ye shall be scattered, every man to his own. For the most part, every man was going to go their way when Jesus was going to be arrested in the next chapter, in chapter 18. Jesus is arrested, and now they're sort of scattering like a covey of quail. Basically, that's what they're doing. They're sort of going their own way. Peter goes back a fishing. The other ones go back doing what they was doing. And see, that's what Jesus is saying here. Every man to his own, and shall leave me alone. Now, you would think that would be hard for them to hear. You would think they would want to interrupt, but they didn't. And yet, I am not alone. See, he's letting them know, look, I'm not alone. Oh, if y'all only knew, I'm not alone. Listen what he says, because the Father is with me. See, them disciples never saw the Father. Jesus always said, me and the Father are one. But imagine what they're thinking right now when Jesus said, because the Father is with me. They never saw the Father. They saw Jesus. They heard Jesus. Jesus told them that he and the Father were one, but did they really fully understand that? I don't know that they did. And then in verse 33, this is the verse at the end of this. These things I have spoken unto you. Now, you told me to speak plain, so I'm speaking plain. These things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. You know what that peace was? I want you to have peace, because when they come and get me, and the soldiers come and arrest me, and they start whipping on me and start beating on me and making me tote that cross. See, Jesus knew what he was going to end up going through, but the disciples didn't. I don't think they had a full knowledge of understanding of what was actually going on here at this time. It says, these things have I spoken I have spoken unto you that in me ye might have peace. Meaning that when the time comes and all this happens, and then you notice what he says at the ending of the verse, in the world ye shall have tribulation. Oh, did they was going to experience tribulation. They was going to witness seeing Jesus die. They're going to witness seeing him naked on the cross. They're going to see him brutalized and beat and tortured and bruised and belittled and made fun of. See, they're going to witness all this. Maybe they're going to witness it from a little bit of distance away, but they're going to witness this. And what Jesus is saying to them, in the world ye shall have tribulation. Now, this is not talking about the great tribulation. This is talking about trouble. That they're going to see trouble. Oh, are they going to see trouble? You know, they're going to experience trouble too. I don't know if everybody knows that or not, but every one of the disciples died a horrible death except one. And that was John the Revelator. He lived, but yet he was put on the isle that is called Patmos, and that's true. But he's the only one that died a natural death because he had to stay alive to finish out the book of Revelation. So Revelation had to be written down and it had to be declared. But yet he says here, in the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. See, he's finishing these words before he goes into praying. Be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. Now you got to remember, Jesus hadn't died yet. Jesus hadn't went to the cross yet. But Jesus says here, be of good cheer, I have overcome the world. Have you overcome? Have you overcome in salvation? Think about the word salvation. Have you overcome in salvation? Jesus told them, I've overcome the world. He still had one major hurdle, and that was dying on a wooden cross. So what do you go through today? That might be a question that you might want to ask yourself. Elderly Ministry is the website. That's the YouTube. elderlyministry.com is the website you can contact me on. If you need to talk about salvation, I'd be honored for you to call. If you need somebody to talk to, if you just need somebody to listen, you're certainly not going to hear no pro, I can tell you that. But I'm a good listener, and I'll be glad to help if I can. Thank you for listening today. I hope maybe you got something out of these verses that we read today. Thank y'all for watching.